And on the subject of bad movies, we're gonna close things off. We're gonna do something a little bit special. So
Well, start things off.
Okay, so you want to start things off with that? Fine, no problem. Well, we could talk about it now, if anything.
Yeah.
So you finally saw my pick for the worst movie of 2017, Transformers: The Last Night.
You don't pick it already, yeah, boy. You pick one.
So because here's the thing. I just keep telling people, words can't describe how bad this movie is. You have to see it for yourself. You have to see things play out in this movie and then ask yourself, did the writers or creators really care about the audience, care about the viewers watching this? I'll stop from here because then I could go into another rant or a repeat of the rant that I did for my review of it. So let me hear your thoughts on
so I'm on a scared thing because I completely forgot what this movie was about, because I had the movie like roughly spoiled for me, and with your review as well, you kind of spoil a lot with the movie, and I didn't mind.
You're welcome.
And I didn't care. So my brain more or less scrub it now. Cause it had so many other important things in my life. I was like, it's a fucking Transformers movie. They don't give a shit. I move on. And then I sit down. I was kind of bedridden last 2 days, mostly because of the little flu I had. And so I said, all right, here's the thing. Right now, my brain not in the mood to do anything intellectual, so I ain't want to watch nothing serious or not a complete contemplate about or anything like that.
Of course.
Truly the mindless action movie.
Yeah.
Let me pick something.
Nothing wrong with that, you know what I mean?
And I didn't want to take the effort to play a game. So it was that bad now. I was just like I just had to flatten out my brain. Something.
That's all right. Every once in a while you had to do that.
Right.
So
flatten out my brain, and I said, all right, I finally get it. Let me go watch it. Transformers the Last Night. And I was like, all right, let me watch this bullshit, see what's going on. And my brain completely like jettisoned what it was about. So I kind of, in a sense, it's scrubbed, so I kind of going in blind in a sense. I barely remember what's going on. And boy, this movie was some bullshit, right? My God. Jeez, boy. Like, at least the fourth film, they did kind of give a fucker. But this one, nah, boy. They talk about not giving a fuck, Judd.
I know, right?
Now, hear the thing, eh? Okay, so just from it was, I think why this one is the new low, because it was unusually sloppy now, even for Michael Bay.
Mm-hmm.
It was like real sloppy though. Like even like I try to think of what scenes he was making these mistakes in the last set of movies now. It probably had it, but it was real noticeable in this one. The aspect ratio. Right.
So with regards to the aspect ratio, I imagine you saw it where you could tell when it's an IMAX shot as opposed to
yeah. It was the IMAX letterbox.
They did away with that though for home media release though. I didn't know they
kept that. I was noticing it. I was
seriously?
I was noticing it. Cause I was like the thing in the movie. I was like, why are you doing this? And here's the thing. It's so like now it's one thing. It's like okay, that's something that is not a big deal. A lot of filmmakers do it. A lot of good filmmakers do it. Where you want to set up a scene. You have a big action sequence coming. Nolan used to do it a lot.
He did it for Interstellar. And,
yes,
he did for Interstellar, notably, yeah.
Yeah, you see it in Dark Knight Rises. Mm-hmm. In Dark Knight Rises, it was a little sloppy. You kind of notice it a lot. But in this movie, Jared, it like the same fucking scene though.
There's a conversation scene that's shot with an IMAX camera. And
that's when they meet, right? When they meet,
like, why?
When they meet Anthony Hopkins for the first time, then when they reach by the house with the girl and she somehow get new clothes all of a sudden.
I know, right?
Right, yeah.
She get a cocktail dress because movie.
Yeah. Right, but it's like it's the same fucking scene though. But it's like it had little things like, but it's little things like the editing, like okay, little scenes like that. They did this. Now here's the thing, them spend money to make a joke, right? Run and then cut back, and it is a bad sloppy edit. Like okay, a simple example. Again, this is me nitpicking, but that's just showing the inherent level of sloppiness going on now.
Yeah.
Like okay, so they had this little piece where Codswood, the Codman.
I can't remember that.
Codman or whatever the character, right? This character who's this robot who could run around and he's a psychopath robot or some bullshit like that, right?
Because the Michael Bay movie, he have to be a psychopath, right?
Whatever. They had him walking a dog, right? The dog wrap around him, so he decided to turn around, like do a rotation,
right?
While the dog run around. So that it's all of that in the movie. It's well rendered, eh? So it's like they're intentional now because they decided to do that. Like why it isn't they would do that if they would just take over the take quick now.
Right.
And then when they cut back now with the same conversation flowing, all the characters further back, the lighting change. That means the sun move, and then the dog in behind the man now instead of the front. I was like,
wow,
are you fucking serious, Judd? Like that
in a Hollywood movie directed by Michael Bay
of
all people.
I ain't saying that that don't happen, man.
Yeah.
But it's so blatant. It's like, wait, you gotta just get a second camera to cut to. It's like, yeah, just shoot with two cameras. What going on? But speaking of rendering, all the special effects look fucking terrible in this one. Like unusually bad.
Right.
But I didn't get into the story yet. The story is total nonsense. Like it's total nonsense. Like again, this franchise is notable for being bad, but it's probably the worst one since 2.
Though,
Because
but
at least
the exposition scenes though was
Right.
terrible.
But at least 2 had the excuse of, being under the writer's strike now. It's like what?
Yeah.
Another writer's
True.
strike have more going on. Like this unusually ill structured though. They had all this dumb shit. Like they decided to have what do you call him? They call him John Turturro in Cuba for some reason.
Because and they do
Fight
too
like he
anything
got
with
shot.
him. Yeah.
Yeah. They just have these short scenes where you're on a phone and like, so what this party contract and you have to be in a Transformers movie or
And
something.
they didn't even bring him back at the end of the movie. For those
Yeah,
who
I was
spoiler
like,
alert,
they do
whatever.
nothing to him.
Yeah.
But again, he's supposed to be the working comic relief, and then they have Anthony Hopkins, who is the actual comic relief apparently.
And they just wasted a man.
He's just doing dumb jokes, and then he have a whole wasteful action sequence where they're driving cars, and then they're doing this thing with Hot Rod, and then they had a little Latina girl in the beginning, and it had this fucking person, we call him oh shit, what's his name, boy? He just do a show on NBC. The show finished though. He in the movie as a comic relief. Yeah.
That introduction to him was just terrible, boy. Just
but
this
they had
shouting match between the two of them.
Yeah,
like,
but
what?
they had a whole sequence where they was like fighting drones in a house,
Right.
and he gets shoot at Carmichael, that name.
Right. Yeah.
Jared Carmichael. Right now, here's the thing: he's a talented dude. I think you actually like him. He was in JZ, the Moonlight video.
Oh, he was there. Okay. Yes.
Yeah, but he kind of started that. Now.
Right. He was. Mm-hmm.
Right. So I was like, all right, cool. But he in this now, and they just given the worst material to work with. It's not funny.
No, they make him real annoying for one
Yeah,
thing.
he like shockingly annoying. I didn't know he could have been so annoying. It's like, wait, boy.
Yeah.
I could be figured out a way to fuck up somebody again.
Yeah.
But
wait thought about the history lesson that I was telling you
right.
about.
That was like real ridiculous. Like, and then they decided to have Bumblebees are different. Bumblebees are a old Volkswagen Beetle because that's the joke. He's a Volkswagen. It's a Volkswagen, but apparently he was on Earth the entire time. So they decided to start the history, and then everybody's with Wiccans, including
including Shia LaBeouf, which is like a huge slap to my face.
They just decided to do that to fuck you up because they get the worst picture for him now.
Yeah, this mug shot of it.
This is right, this ugly ass
Which I
like,
believe they took from the first movie, if memory serves right. That was from the first movie.
So I was like, okay, this is supposed to be a joke, but at the same time, again, if you didn't, it's to insult Shia LaBeouf. I didn't show.
You know, and there's like this big revelation to it that they make it all like, oh my god, it's bigger than you think, Dread. But when you want to bring in Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass into this mix, is like, no.
Right.
No, slow your roll. Stop right
Right.
in. Stop
Yeah,
right in.
yeah. I was like, I saw that and I was like, oh, they're fucking serious. Right.
Yeah. What else to talk about though? What was bad? Oh gosh. The use of Optimus Prime in this movie, the 15 minutes that he was on screen.
They didn't do nothing with him, and then they decided to do this nonsense Nemesis Prime strippiness, and then all of a sudden, like this was unclear to me. He was bad, so the knights were good, and all the knights come after him because he was bad, right?
I assume so, yeah.
Right, but then I couldn't follow. Wait, who was fighting him at the end when he sliced off a bunch of them head? Wasn't that the same set of knights? Because of the character design in this, it's really difficult to fucking tell.
Yeah. So,
like,
but you're right though, because it could be one of those Decepticon things that, characters, I'm not too sure. Well,
right,
speaking
but
of Decepticons,
when
you thought about that Suicide Squad moment that I
right,
mentioned.
yeah. What the fuck is that? Like, what? What's this? And he had to break people out of prison, so wait, they had the technology to hold them relatively easily now? Like, I kind of understand for the smaller ones. Again, the logic in this franchise kind of threw out a long goddamn time ago. But, like, even for this, it still had a working sense of the logic now. Because the thing is one thing when you have Michael Bay make up his own logic. That's bad enough. But you can say, all right, you still have a logic now. But this time, it's like, yeah, he didn't give a fuck about that.
That's the thing, and you could see it. The man just don't care.
Yeah, jeez, boy. This
was his check at the end of the day, you know? Whatever,
yeah, I know, but
you know what I mean?
So, like, at this movie, from what I understand, this movie did the worst, by far.
Not surprised.
Right. So whatever.
Well, this is something I always like to argue about. The fan, there are fans that will defend this movie. They will be like, well, all I just want, I don't go into a Transformers movie expecting, story and, world building. I just want to see action, and I got action. But even the action wasn't even handled well. That chase scene that you mentioned, I'm not sure if I mentioned it last time. You see how sloppily that was edited? That was poorly edited.
Yeah.
And then on top of all that,
it had the chase in London.
yes,
where they had the car
right,
and
that one. And then
where Kodzo was driving a car and Thing was driving a car to get to some museum or some bullshit. It
Right.
was like a real bullshit narrative.
And
but yeah,
then another thing too, which goes against what Transformers was about, the movie, is that people died in that scene. If I'm not mistaken, humans died. So it's like no regard to them though. You know what I mean? It's just, you need to get from point A to point B. If I have to run you off the road, if I have to crash into your car, that's what we're gonna do.
Right.
Because movie.
Right. No, but this was real bad. Wow.
Yeah. But
this
let me
was
just ask one last question because you have to give a rating, because we could talk all night about this. What you thought about the Disney moment that I mentioned when, through the magic of Bumblebee's
Right.
voice,
Yeah, I was supposed to say that. Yeah, through the power of friendship, we all of a sudden turn back to normal. I was like, what?
Wow.
Why? Okay, strippiness. And then they fighting.
Huge slap to my face, way.
No, it was a mess. This was a mess. Yeah, let me give my rating quick.
Please.
Right, I gonna have to give this a complete fuck you in terms of a rating.
Well
so
done.
this gets with my lowest rating is basically a Capsco. Go see this in Capsco.
Yeah, and for those who don't know, Capsco no longer exists.
Yeah,
It's a cinema that more or less shut down in the 2000s. So
yeah,
you
old dead cinema. Yeah, go see this. Go see this in Capsco. This was a mess, Dread.
Yeah, go open in there and see this.
Yeah, no, this was a hot mess, Dread. Wow, I know it was bad, and I suppose I let down my guard, so I didn't know what I walk in with nothing now. Because again, I just bedridden more or less for the thing. I was like, all right, let me just.
But how did you feel after that, though? Like.
Well, it wasn't. That's the problem. You just get a slight headache when you start to think a little bit.
Right.
And this one was kind of burden because my brain was like, all right, just turn off your brain, enjoy it. And I was enjoying it in terms of just seeing all the special effect shit going down. But now, boy, this was rough, good. Wow. I was going for it. I was like, I can't do anything like that. Because again, I check out from the franchise from since 4. Right? 4 was the last movie. I said, look, I'm not going to see any more of these in theaters. Fuck these movies. I'll see them eventually, but fuck these movies. But now, boy. This I didn't know this would be so bad. I really didn't expect this. So I hoping, look, they somehow fast and furious this and return the franchise and try to do something to get me come back in like the Fast and Furious franchise. But nah, boy,
I know I'm gonna bring this up by year's end. I remember asking this before when I mentioned before when I did my review of it. Is like thinking about it as a director now. Like you having all this power, having this control, having all these people make these things for you, right? And then for some reason you realize that people don't care anymore. People tune out, but to you it doesn't matter. It's just all about making your money. And you put this out, and you don't feel any guilt about it, Jed. Like you don't feel like, hey, maybe I could have put a little bit more effort into this thing, but you know what? Nobody gives a fuck, so why should I?
Yeah,
Here you go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
I
but
don't know, but I just can't wrap my brain around that though. Just being so having your head so far up your ass, Jed, that you could put something out like this and be proud about it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like that's messed up, Jed. You know. Anyway. Moving along along to bigger and better things now. This actually was a movie that I didn't know anything about until one of my good friends, Somali Polony, who's Movie Junkies for Life. She actually did a review of it on her YouTube channel. Mentioned it. It's called Brawl in Cell Block 99.
Right.
And this is pretty much an action thriller. It's directed by S. Craig Zahler, Zahler. He was the guy who did this Western horror, which I have yet to watch, but I've been hearing a lot of great things about, called Bone Tomahawk. I just love that title.
No, Bone Tomahawk is excellent. That's one of the better movies for a while. I've seen it in a while. Pretty damn good.
All right, I need to see it. Should have watched it for Halloween, but
pretty damn awesome. Yeah.
Right. So, this is his latest film here. It stars Vince Vaughn, of all people, who plays Bradley Thomas. He is a drug dealer. He occasionally drinks, and he also has some anger management that he's constantly dealing with. So, and we see this right off the bat in this opening scene where he runs into his wife, where she's in her car, like about like ready to leave the house now. And she's leave him, and she's she just kind of gave up on him at the time now, and he just like get out the car, just get out the car.
Right.
She gets out, she goes into the house, and then he starts to pummel this car, like smash, the rear view windows and whatnot. He just starts smashing this car with his bare hands now. So right there, you could tell that yes, this man is he does have this this anger, this deep rooted anger inside of him, and then when it unleashes, it's almost like Hulk, like really. He just has this rage inside of him, and it's just about him dealing with it, and also he can hold his own in terms of fighting as well. I mean, he's no Superman, but yeah, the man could actually throw a punch and whatnot, as we see in this sequence. So at that moment though, where we introduce his character, he's laid off from his job, and then he says, well, you know what, I guess I'll just have to get back into drug dealing. But and then we cut to a few years later, where his wife, who's played by Jennifer Carpenter, by the way, who I haven't seen since the series finale, well, the disappointing series finale of Dexter. Remember that?
Right. Yeah.
Right. So she is pregnant now. So to him it's like, all right, well, the usual thing. Last deal, just gonna do this for a while, but when the child is born, well, it's gonna be a daughter. Actually, I'm done. I'm gonna move away from this whole drug dealing life. I'm gonna actually start a family, basically. So he's doing his job, and of course it takes place during at this pier, and of course things go wrong. The police are there. There's a shootout. He even shoots a couple of the guys who he's supposed to be helping out as well, and he is arrested as a result. And right here, this is just a minor spoiler here, but this is where I got thrown off a bit, right? Because when you see a title like Cell Block 99, well, Brawl in Cell Block 99, you imagine yourself, okay, it's gonna be one of those kind of gritty, brutal prison films, from like the 70s and stuff like that. I'll talk about that in a bit. And when he goes into this jail here, this particular penitentiary, it looks like a normal, average prisoner, like if you remember from The Night Off. It looks like those kind of jails now, automated, not that much security presence there. But they are security, they are prisoners, but you don't see a majority of them. And everything is just kind of like plain, normal, ordinary. It's just like, all right, you do the crime, you just have to do your time, you just have to play things out for X amount of years until they get out. You don't have to worry too much about people attacking you unless he's like some rapist or whatever. But, you just did this, you have nothing to worry about. And then this one particular guy who's played by Udo Kier, who, this German actor, you've seen him. He was the guy from Blade. He was in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. He's just that one German actor that you've seen in countless movies, right? Yeah, so he visits him one day and tells him, well, we have your wife prisoner, and if you do what we say, we're gonna abort the baby and basically kill the baby. So here's what they're gonna do first. You're gonna get yourself into this maximum security prison, another prison, I should say, and you're gonna kill this one particular guy who owes money for us, but things didn't work out, and he is currently the resident of Cell Block 99 of that particular prison. And if you don't do the job, then like we say, your daughter is dead and your wife is dead. So of course, Vince, being the guy that he is, and he's so determined to get back to his wife, he breaks some bones, that's all I'll say, and then because of that, he ends up in the real prison, the real heart of what the story is about. And my God, boy, just that comparison, that contrast, I should say, between the two prisons is just so stark. Because this one here is like, dude, if you mess up once, we are gonna put you through like this torture, this real torture, and we give little to no shits about it. We are just gonna torture you unless you basically, do everything that we say. And that's the prison, that's the cell that he's in. There's broken glass on the ground. He's even given this sort of belt that has this electronic motor in it. So basically, when they press a button, it just gives him this jolt of electricity. And they
Right.
could just press it at any time, any given time they choose, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
And you just seeing that, and it's like, wow, boy, like now I get my money's worth here. And of course, he has to put up with that whilst trying to find that one prisoner and doing the job. And I'll stop from there. So, one thing that got me about this show, just right off the title alone, this really evokes those 70s grindhouse movies. You know, it reminded me of like those revenge thriller films like Vanishing Point and
Right.
Rolling Thunder. You know, those movies that Quentin Tarantino loves and always tries to draw influence from with his movies as well, right? So I got a vibe from that just off the title alone, and just by how gritty and how, I don't want to say it's realistic. It reminds me a lot like um how Breaking Bad is. You know, that's a perfect
Right.
example where it plays realistic, but there are moments where they're not being a little over the top. It's not real, but it kind of plays itself out as sort of like a hyper realistic version of how
Right.
life really is. You know,
Right. Right.
where things could be normal, but it could be a shootout and people could die, and there could be a guy's head on top of a turtle. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. Now, some shocking thing could happen, and that's exactly how this movie plays out to me, where it feels real and just the way how it's acted, it has this kind of realism vibe to it, but there are some over the top like action and violence to it that just, it doesn't really take you out of the movie, but it's like, yeah, this is part of that sort of grindhouse tradition, you know what I mean? Where
You're right.
it's really all about shock. It's all about, oh my god, did you see that? You know what I mean? And you get that through the fight choreography,
Right.
which I really enjoyed though. It's very hands-on. There's not that much cuts. So you do see Vince Vaughn, and this really surprised me. You do see Vince Vaughn, fighting, like literally throwing down against other guys as well. I love that the fact that they use minimal cuts here, and they use a lot of wide shots. So
Right.
they can't go in close and make it tight to hide the fact that, oh well, it's a stunt double doing this. And unlike a show like say Arrow, for example, which hate on the show as much as you want to, but I do praise the fight choreography here. But yes, there are moments where you could tell, yes, that's a stunt man, because they use a lot of shadow. But here, because they don't use that much lighting, but the fight scenes are lit in such a way that you could tell, yeah, it is Vince Vaughn doing his thing. And yes, the other guy who he was pretty much taunting, yeah, it's both of them fighting here. So yes, the fight scenes are, visceral, they're in your face, they are brutal. Some of them really end on this kind of over the top, cartoonishly violent point. There's a few moments where you'll be like, okay, I did not know a head could do that. I did not know a foot, when landed in just the right area, could do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's just like that. But one thing
So you'll say the fighting realistic itself in terms of like how a fight is in terms of like fights tend to have a working choreography, but not really. It's like
well, it is. You could tell that there is choreography involved in it. That's the way how
Right.
the characters move, the way how they kind of pause and, for like a couple seconds and then move in. It's not like,
Right.
pow, 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 rushing, grab, pull off, shoot, whatever. It's not like that. It's not
Right.
rowdy fighting, but you could tell that it's somebody who has a skill in a particular fighting style against
Yeah.
somebody else with another skill, and it's just to see what happens there. So
Right.
yes, there is a level of choreography to it, but it's not too choreographed. This is not a martial arts film that we've seen here. But one thing that really surprised me, actually threw me off a bit, was the way how the story was told. Like, I was expecting this thing to be this real full-tit action movie where it's like, a bunch of fight scenes in a prison, like, like Ting Jason Statham and Dwayne Johnson in that last Fast and Furious movie. I was thinking like
Right.
those kind
Yeah.
of scenes now. But no, it's more like one-on-one combat, really. And but really, this is one thing that might throw people off. It did throw me off. Was just the way how it's paced. It really does take its time. The movie is 2 hours and 12 minutes. I felt that it was a tad bit too long, and you do see it in the pacing because they do take quite a long while, not just for Vince Vaughn's character to get into the first prison, but also into the second as well, And I do get that they're trying to establish this whole idea that that Bradley Thomas you're more or less seeing life through his eyes. He's trying to deal with life day by day. I get that, but
Right.
still you have a story to tell and you have to maintain a particular pace. So long story short, what I'm saying here is that it does feel more dramatic than it should be because of its grindhouse nature. Um, which once again reminds me of Breaking Bad, which, is another show that takes its time. It develops character, it moves at a slow pace, but, there are things that going on. But then when something violent or shocking happens, it just throws you off, you know what I mean? So I was just going to this thing expecting, like, this action film, and, like, non-stop. But I didn't expect that, there'd be moments of drama and, just a slow pace. But I felt that there were a few moments that do drag. And,
Right.
like, okay, yes, he's in jail, like in the first time we go see first prison, but do we have to see the moment where, the usual scene where they have to strip down and they have to take off all their valuables and all that kind of stuff, and there's that one guy who has to introduce him to how life is in the jail. Like, you've seen these things before, and I felt they could have just sped those things up just a little bit if
Yeah.
the point of the film was, okay, he has to get to this horrible prison to find this one guy and off him, basically.
Right.
The performances I thought were decent as well, but the person who really carries this film, believe it or not, is Vince Vaughn. Like,
Right.
this man really transformed here in this movie. Like, I've never seen Vince Vaughn. I never see a lot of Vince Vaughn movies, honestly, right? But I've never seen dramatic roles from him, to be honest. But this
Right.
one, this is probably the first one I've seen, and I would say this is probably one of his best performances in years, though. Like, the man is totally different. He's not the lovable idiot from Wedding Crashers
Right.
or Dodgeball or whatever. This is
No, but
somebody
that's the thing.
totally
That was
different
his,
here.
that was his bag. He was a serious actor a long time, and then he get into comedy after. And then to me, the death of his comedy is when he did that shitty Google movie.
Which movie was that?
He did this movie about Google where they were the intern or some
Oh,
bullshit. Yeah.
how was that good? I didn't hear.
No,
anything
that was
about it.
terrible. It's
Okay,
fucking terrible.
right.
Yeah.
I think I think the name was the intern. I'm not too sure, but right. But
The
anyway,
intern, I think so. Yeah.
but it was surprising. Just for example, when I saw him in Hacksaw Ridge, like, who would have
Right.
thought he'd be the drill
Exactly.
the drill sergeant
Yeah.
in that man, and
Right.
I thought he was great in that. But here he's more subdued. You could tell that there's a lot of anger and there's a lot of hidden emotions inside of him. I love
Right.
that about his character. He's the type of person that doesn't talk a lot. He has this kind of like southern accent, so it's like not like Nicolas Cage from Con Air, but something a little similar, right? But he's not the type of person that talks a lot, and when he does talk, you do listen. One thing I like about him, just from a visual perspective, was that cross on the back of his head. Like,
Right.
every time they do cut to shots like that, it always makes him a little bit more menacing there.
Right.
Unfortunately, for the character, he's not some kind of neo-Nazi guy. Like, at first I was asking myself, wait, I hope he's not some sort of neo-Nazi character or something like that. But it's just his character,
Yeah.
you know what I mean?
Right.
But
So yeah, because I was thinking, I was like, oh, he's some kind of neo-Nazi skinhead type, no?
yeah, but just from the poster and just how they always like to focus on the back of his head now, you know what I mean? So I was wondering, okay, well, is this the direction of the show that he's going to go and you're going to meet some Aryan brotherhood people and some kind of drama? But fortunately, it doesn't go that route. So I was glad about that. But yeah, when he is on screen, yeah, you do feel intimidated by him. You do feel a little bit sorry for him as well too, because you could tell that he wants to do the right thing. He wants to do right by his wife, but because he's involved in the drug game and because he's done bad things in the past and because he has this deep-rooted anger that just comes out now, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
every once in a while. Like, the perfect way to describe how his anger comes out, like that car scene, for example. But there's another scene where, for example, the first time that he goes into the first prison and he's put into the cell, and then he looks into the mirror and then he starts to hit the mirror, but then the mirror is plastic now. So, I mean, so the first thing he does, he just acts up and then punches the mirror now. So that's the thing about him. He'll keep it on the low, and then when he's by himself or when he feels he needs to let it out, he lets it out, right? And that's how it is.
Yeah.
I forgot to mention Don Johnson's in this movie as well. Last time I saw him
Really?
was in Django Unchained,
Yes. Right.
And
Yeah. I
here
remember that.
he is like that. That's just that brutal guy. He's just the guy who runs that particular maximum security prison, and just the introduction of that character was just brilliant. It's just like he just said it right off the bat. Yeah. you're gonna get how he calls it minimum freedom. So it's maximum security, but it's minimum freedom for you. And he just kind of tells it as it is, right? Like, if you don't do what we say, we are going to mess you up in so much ways you will not believe. We do not care about you. That's just how it is. You know what I mean? So overall, yeah. While the pacing was a bit slow and it does run too long for its own good, because to me I felt like, okay, if we embrace the whole grindhouse era, similar to like what John Wick did, where it's like, okay, we know that this is not your average action movie, we're going back to a particular era, so this is how these movies used to be. You know what I mean? But this one kind of takes itself a little seriously at times, and that's fine because it's all about character development and whatnot. But overall, this was still solid business for me. It is as brutal and violent as you expect it to be, but you will have to wait a good while for those scenes to come true. And when you're there, they do hit. They are entertaining. They are visceral, but because they really establishing this character so well, you will be rooting for this character. You do want to see him succeed in one way or another, even if he has to break some bones or whatnot just to get to that point. So while I wasn't completely blown away by this was still a very entertaining film for me. I just wish that we could have had some more action to it, some more, of that real gritty grindhouse fare. But this was like a 2010s attempt at it, you know what I mean? But for the most part, it works, and it gave us probably one of the best performances I've ever seen from Vince Vaughn, and I've seen a lot. And what's so funny about this too, before I get to rating, is how low-key this movie is, though, because it was screened apparently at the Venice International Film Festival. It didn't really get that much buzz until it came out like on Amazon. You could actually like download it and watch it, and I believe it's coming out next month, I believe, on home media. But yeah, this was like real low-key now, and this is amazing coming from a guy like Vince Vaughn of all people. Like, you'd think that this would be something that would hit theaters immediately, but just off of his name alone. But yeah, this was like real low-key now. I was actually surprised that he'd be that brave to commit to a role like that, and then expect a lot of buzz. But yeah, people have been talking about it, have been praising it, especially Vince Vaughn's performance, which is reason enough to see this. And yeah, I actually recommend that you check it out as well. So for me, I would give this a very light 4 to 5 stars. This is one that's worth checking out. Just don't go in expecting a non-stop action-packed ride. This is not John Wick, even though both movies do kind of harken back to that old 70s, 80s vibe, but this is more on the revenge tip. So this is more like Rolling Thunder and Death Wish, that real gritty style of it. It does go for realism. I felt that it kind of goes for it a little too much. It kind of could have just embraced its silly grindhouseness a little bit more, but for what it's worth, this was still a solid film. And like I say, excellent performance from Vince Vaughn, one that you're not going to forget in a long while. So by all means, man, check out Brawl in Cell Block 99, which is still a badass title. Check it out.